Hello. In this video, we're going to look at the content page of Unit 2, Activity 3. And it's going to be broken up into 4 parts. The first 2 parts are going to deal with sentence structure, grammar errors, and the second 2 parts are going to deal with short story elements. So if we look at part 1, it's sentence fragments. So a sentence fragment is an incomplete sentence. So it's any sentence that is missing a subject, a predicate, or a complete thought. And we can look at 3 examples here, one of each. And so we have drinks 8 glasses of water each day. So this sentence has a verb and a complete predicate, but it has no subject. It doesn't say who is doing the drinking. The opposite of that is the table in my kitchen. So that has a subject. So the table is a subject, but the table isn't doing anything, and therefore it's missing a verb and a predicate. The third sentence, after Miriam finished her homework, it has a subject, Miriam, and it has a verb, which can be the beginning of the predicate here, finished, but it doesn't have a complete thought because of this word after. After Miriam finished her homework, what? So we'd have to complete that thought. So how do we fix sentence fragments? Well, we add whatever is missing, either a subject, a verb and predicate, or both. And so if we look at that first example, John drinks 8 glasses of water each day. We've added a subject. We don't have to put John. We could put any subject in. I, we, you, but somebody has to be drinking the water. In number 2, we have the table in my kitchen is broken. So we've added in a verb, is, and is broken is our complete predicate. And so we've completed that sentence. We now have a subject and a predicate. And the third example is after Miriam finished her homework, she watched TV. So we've added a complete thought here with a subject and a predicate, she watched TV, which finishes this incomplete thought. So again, you either have to add a subject, a predicate, or both. And then in the practice exercise, what you're going to do is you're going to go through these 10 sentences, and you're just going to add whatever is missing, either a subject, a predicate, or both. In some of these 10 sentences, you won't have to add anything because they're already complete and they're not fragments. When you're done, you can click Possible Solutions to see answers to these 10 sentences, but keep in mind that your answers don't have to be the exact same. There's different ways that you can fix these sentences. You might put in one subject, and I might put in a different subject, but we both have fixed the sentence. Number 2 is the opposite of a sentence fragment. It's a run-on sentence. And a run-on sentence is a sentence that is just too long, too much information. And so a good definition of that is a run-on sentence is 2 or more sentences joined together without proper punctuation. And there's 3 ways that this can happen. You can have a fused sentence. And so Ahmed worked hard at school. He became a doctor. So Ahmed worked hard at school is a complete sentence. He became a doctor is a complete sentence. They're being joined together with nothing in between. You can also have a comma splice, which is Ahmed worked hard at school, comma, he became a doctor. This is just as wrong as this. They're both run-on sentences. A comma can't hold together 2 complete sentences. And then a true run-on sentence is a sentence that just goes on and on and on. So if you were to read this sentence here, you're probably going to be out of breath by the time you get to the end of it. And if you put that into your paragraph and a reader is reading it, they're probably going to lose track of what you said because there's no spot for them to pause and think about what you just said. So in this case, we're going to have to break this up into multiple sentences. So there are 3 ways to fix a run-on sentence. First, you can add a period. Ahmed worked hard at school, period, he became a doctor. So that's fine. We now have 2 sentences instead of 1. You can use a semicolon. Ahmed worked hard at school, semicolon, he became a doctor. So if you want to keep the 2 ideas together and not break them into 2 sentences, a semicolon can do that. It's like a period replacement. Or you could add joining words, and there's two types of joining words, and we've talked about these joining words before. There's fanboys, and there's subordinate or dependent clause cues. So if we add a fanboy, we could say, Ahmed worked hard at school, comma, and he became a doctor. Now that's fine. You can have the and, you can have the comma and between these two thoughts. That's fine. Or you can put because Ahmed worked hard at school, comma, he became a doctor. So now we have an independent, an incomplete sentence here and a complete sentence, and they work together and complete the thought. If you're going to fix a true run-on sentence, you're not going to be able to use semicolons and joining words very much because it's already too long. You're going to have to use periods. So if you look here, I went home after work and started to make pasta for dinner, period. I realized I didn't have tomatoes, so I went to the grocery store, period. When I arrived at the store, I didn't have my wallet, period. I went home and ate cereal instead, period. So we've taken this true run-on sentence and turned it into 4 proper sentences. So that's how you'd fix a true run-on. There is a practice exercise, so here's 8 sentences, and what you would do is you would just add periods, semicolons, or joining words to fix the run-ons. Keep in mind that you will not have to fix all 8. Some of them will already be correct, and you can click on possible solutions to see answers, and again, remember that you don't have to write the exact solutions that are here. You could put a semicolon, and I could put a period, and we can both be right, as long as we're fixing the run-on. All right, part 3 is setting. And so we've already looked at character and plot in Unit 2, and now we're going to look at setting in stories. And when we think about setting, I think the 2 words that you want to kind of think of is where and when. So where does the story take place, and when does the story take place? And to break that down further, we can look at the place, the time, and the environment. So what is the city or country? The specific street name. Does the story take place indoors or outdoors? All of that is part of the place. What is the time of day, the day of the week, the month of the year? What decade or century? Does it take place in the past or the future? That has to do with the time. And then environment, you could have the weather or the season. So if a story takes place in summer, that's part of the setting. Or you can have political or social or economic events. So right now with the COVID-19 situation going on, that would be part of the setting. If someone was writing a story about what's going on right now, that would be part of the political and social and economic situation that's going on, and that would be part of the setting environment. Now another part of setting that's a little bit harder to explain is atmosphere and mood. And the atmosphere is the physical description of the location. So wherever the scene is taking place, is it hot, is it cold, is it light, is it dark, is it noisy, is it quiet? Usually the author will come right out and directly tell you these details and will describe the physical location. So an example of that would be if I was to have an atmosphere that said a couple is walking alone on a warm and sunny beach, it's quiet, and the only sounds that we hear are, soft waves slowly approaching the shore. So that would be the physical environment, a description of it. Now, the mood is the feelings and the emotions that physical environment, that atmosphere creates. So does the atmosphere create a happy or peaceful or stressful or angry mood? What are the feelings that's being created by the scene? So if we have that, that warm, sunny beach, that's probably going to create a peaceful, relaxing, or romantic mood. So the two always go together, and you always describe the atmosphere first. So what is the physical environment, and then what is the mood, the feelings, and the emotions that's created by that physical environment. So as a practice exercise, there's a photo here, and I know it might be a little hard to see, but there's Canadian soldiers here in a bombed out town in Italy during World War II. And here's just a description of the scene in the caption below. And so what they're going to do is they're going to take that scene, that description here, and they're going to break apart the different parts of setting. And so they're going to identify the time period of that scene. So it's in December. To be more specific, it's in December 1943. Identify the place. Well, it's in a town in Italy. Describe the atmosphere. So what is the physical environment like? Describe the mood. What is the feelings and the emotions being created by this atmosphere? Identify the main characters. Well, the main characters in this scene are the Canadian soldiers. Describe how the characters are dressed. That could play a part in setting in some ways. And in this case, they're dressed in army uniforms. And then what is the main conflict? Well, the main conflict in this case is that a battle could break out. So character versus character, soldiers could start to fight. And so setting can sometimes play a role in establishing the main conflict. This second row right here is a made-up scenario. It's about a wedding party in a church that's waiting for the wedding ceremony to begin. And so these are imagined details. It's imagined that it's taking place in August and that it's in a small church in a village. And this is a created atmosphere and mood. And these are the characters that would be there. And this is how they would be dressed. And this is a conflict that could arise in this setting. And so that's these first two rows are just examples. And what they're going to ask you to do is they're going to ask you to take these three scenes. Imagine a hospital emergency room after a train wreck, or the inside of an airplane during a storm, or a mall parking lot on Black Friday. And they're going to ask you, and you can kind of make these up out of your own imagination a little bit. They're going to ask you to fill in these rows and kind of create the setting for each one of those scenes. And it's just a practice exercise to see if you can kind of understand the different parts of setting. If you want, you can click here and you can download a Microsoft Word version of this. And it's going to look like this. And you can just fill in those three rows right here. And if you want, you can send your answers to me. It's practice. I'm not going to grade it, but if you want me to take a look, I will. Okay, but you're going to have to do something similar to this in the assignment in this activity. The last part of the content page is part 4, directly stated information and indirectly stated information. And so what we're going to have to practice here is reading a short story and identifying the parts that authors are directly explaining and clearly stating to us, and then identifying the parts that are indirectly stated, where we have to read between the lines and figure out what the author means, even though he's not giving us all of the information. And so they give you examples here of how you can directly explain a character, you can directly describe a conflict, you can directly describe setting. And then they give you examples here of how you can indirectly describe character, conflict, and setting. So character, conflict, and setting, these are now 3 different things that we've already looked at in Unit 2. And what you're going to have to do in one of the assignments in this activity is you're going to have to demonstrate that you can kind of read between the lines and not just understand what the author's saying directly, but also how he's indirectly telling us things about the character and the conflict and the setting. So you'll see I'll do another video on the assignment for this activity, and I'll explain further what you'll have to do. I hope this helped, and if you have any questions about the content, please let me know.